We have RF. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello and welcome to another Retro Crazy. Today we're going to be looking at the Commodore Plus 4. I'll be restoring this classic computer, bringing it back to life and exploring some of its unique features, from its built-in office programs to its lightning fast speed. This was supposedly a powerhouse at the time. It was launched in 1984 as a business machine. Unfortunately, if I can tell you that it was discontinued in 1985, you can kind of tell how successful it was. And it was those same business programs that were built in that ultimately were realistically its downfall. So what can I tell you about this specific one? Well, I bought it a couple of years ago and it sat in its box, because it came with the original box, and I thought it was about time to break it out and have a look, because I've never actually had my hands on one until now. It's very yellowed, it's very dusty, it's going to need a good clean, and as usual before I do anything I will be having a good strip down and clean. Now it uses a 4-pin square DIN for its power, standard serial, but you notice unlike the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20, this uses a round pin for the cassette deck, the datasette. That's not as common. However, you can now get adapters that allow you to convert from this back to the datasette. You've got your standard port, your user port, a memory expansion port, and then at the other side we've got video out and a pair of joystick ports, and again they've gone to these round pin ideas, which means take up less space. But if you want to use a conventional joystick, then yes, you do need an adapter that goes from this to conventional joystick. On this side we have RF, and on the opposite side we have power and reset. On the back we've got 1, 2 and 3 screws, and on the front we've got a screw here and a screw here. So relatively simple to get into. The supplied power supply was unfortunately one of the potted power supplies, and while you may be able to pry the base off, what's in here is completely unserviceable. These are really heavy, and they just filled them with a resin to stop you being able to get into anything. I'll give it a clean, I'll bag it all back up because it is original and it'll go back in the box, but I'm definitely not going to use this. Commodore power supplies were notorious for failing, and that then took out a number of things in the machine. While it's nice to have, certainly not going to use it. So we'll get an alternative. So unlike previous videos, I'm not going to be looking at the power supply first. We're going to go straight in and pop this Plus 4 apart. And with the top case off, we can see it's quite dusty. There's even a bit of the box still inside. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws, and this should all come apart. And here we are with everything out. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 capacitors that need replaced. Well, they may not need replaced, but they're going to be replaced. This board's also going to need a good clean up, but other than that it looks fine. I like the way most of the major chips are now socketed. However, I'm seeing a lot of MOS words on chips, and that's never a good sign. So fingers crossed some of these are actually still alive and working. Right, so first thing, I'm going to take a note of where all these capacitors are, what their values are, desolder everything, clean it up, replace. Yeah, that's quite a lot for a first run, so let's get on. So popping the lid off to expose the TED chip, just to check, and there's another little capacitor hiding under here. Now I also note the thermal compound on the TED chip is bone dry. It's not doing its job, so that'll all need replaced as well. Now that I've got my little diagram showing where everything goes, so now I feel a little bit more comfortable popping all the capacitors off, ready for replacement. Now interestingly, there are a number of things that would appear to be missing and changed between the Commodore 64. For example, the Plus 4 already comes with 64K of memory, very similar to the 64. However, there is no SID chip, for which the Commodore 64 is famous. Instead, the TED chip also handles the video and the sound, so this replaces both your VIC-2 and your SID chip. But it is missing hardware sprites. This was designed as a business machine, not as a games machine. The processor and all of these changes means that this actually runs 75% faster than a Commodore 64 if used in the US. For us here in the UK, where we use a slightly different signal rate, we actually get a boost of 115% over the 64. That's quite a chunk. So yeah, a little bit different, but still wary of so many MOS chips. I'm glad to see that with a couple of exceptions, that being one, then the rest of it, there's the other exception. The rest all seems to be more generic logic produced by other manufacturers, so less likely to failure. Right, well, let's get this cleaned up before we go any further. And with that all clean, there are a couple of areas I can see with corrosion, so I'll need to clean those off. Underside is just discoloured, so that's fine, that'll clean easily enough. Lots of flux around the main sockets. Everything else looks good. Doesn't look like anybody's been in here before. Excellent. Alright, let's get these capacitors off. And there we are, they're all out. Nice Rubicon. Don't recognise those ones at all. Again, Japan, Nichicon. They don't look like they've been leaking, but after best part of 30 years, I'm replacing them, taking no chances. Now, a lot of people will say this is a waste of time, most of the time the caps are fine, and that's true. However, it just takes one cap to start leaking and this whole board can die, so why would I take the chance? So let's ditch these. and with the board all recapped, deoxit applied to both the switch and the reset, and some new thermal compound underneath what is technically a heatsink. So I'm going to pop this to the side now, bring over the keyboard, and let's have a look at that. So the keyboard's very grubby, dirty and dusty. I have actually had it out in the sun a little bit. The yellowing has faded to an extent, but there are keys that are certainly more grey than the others. It is disgusting. It's going to need to come apart. And looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws, and it's apart. So that's the keyboard out. The casing can go to the side for cleaning, and that leaves us with a keyboard which, yeah, I can keep pulling bits of fluff out. So this is going to need redone. I don't think just a gentle clean is going to do it, because I don't know what it is, but it's kind of, apart from fluff, it's embedded in the side of the keys. So it's going to be a full clean for the keycaps. They actually feel not too bad. So let's pop these off. So that's all the keycaps off, and yes, it was long overdue for a clean. So this is, that actually is metal. So I'm going to clean this with isopropyl alcohol. I'll give it a brush first. The keys will go away. They'll get a soak in hot soapy water with some vanish oxy action in as well. That'll help break up and lift off some of the more ingrained dirt. Everything will be cleaned and dried. So I'll see you back here for reassembly just in a minute. So here we are at testing, it's all reassembled. I'm going to be using the keylog power supply that I bought for the Commodore 64 and an adapter cable which converts it from Commodore 64 to the plus 4. So that just hopefully plugs in like so. I've already got a cable connected in. Power is all the way over here. Okay. There we go. Well, this is a little bit scary. Okay, so let's swap over to, should be side AV I believe, and find out what happens. Oh. Let's turn that volume down. Oh, there we go. Power's come on. It was actually on. I'm getting power. And it looks like I've got a black screen. Let's try it off. No, no screen. Okay, I was hoping this cable would work. I currently do not know if this cable works. Everything is in the right way. Video is connected. Let's try again. Definitely got a power light. Check the source once more. Okay, so it may not be a true composite, possibly. Okay, I'm going to switch off and I'm going to swap over to an RF cable, so back in a second. So now I'm back. You can see RF cable plugged in the side here. Let's see what happens. Okay, it was the cable. I don't think I'm quite tuned in, but yeah. So first thing I'm going to do is power back off. I've got DAG 264 with all the loop backs, so let's plug all this in and let's test this. So now that's all plugged in, you can see all the different things plugged in the back. The only one I don't have plugged in is the keyboard loop back because I've actually got the keyboard on. So let's power on, see what happens. I've never used this one before, so okay, I'm going to pause there because that certainly went through everything, but I can see the cartridge isn't quite sitting in right. Either that, the casing, it's not quite sitting in right. Plus it's not registering these. Now they are in for the very first time, and it could just be that they're not sat right because this is not been used for many years. As far as the keyboard test there was concerned, I didn't actually realise I had to press the keys until the very end. So that was fully my fault. And the other joystick, yeah, maybe not in far enough because that's gone in much further. Okay. See what happens now. let's rerun the tests and see if anything changes. Okay, so again, the ports are registering as fail. I don't know if it's these adapters because it's the very first time I've used any of this. So I have no way of checking and testing realistically. What I will do off camera is I will get an actual data set and we'll see what happens, but everything else is testing fine. So, oh dear. These are tight. So I'm going to pop this out because this diagnostic test apparently has a little bit more to it than just what you've seen. I'm still annoyed that that seems to be sitting at a weird angle. Which it does seem to sit at. Okay, so according to the dip switches, if I go to off and off, I should get a cartridge game, I believe. We get Jack Attack. Now I have no idea if this is keyboard or mouse. I'm gonna guess keyboard or mouse. Keyboard or joystick. Hopeful that when this was launched it came with a mouse. I don't know. I have zero idea. Don't you just love it when you've got no clue about a game? It doesn't even appear to have any sound, which is strange. I thought there would have been something. There are apparently 2 other games on this. Let's see if there's one that I can recognise. This just says 2 games. That'll be exciting because we've no idea what 2 games. Oh, Kickstart and Invaders. Move joystick to select level, fire. Oh great, okay, so I'm going to try using this. This was kindly sent in to me. This is an actual Commodore C16 joystick. So let's pop this in and find out if it works. And more importantly, does it work enough for me to play? This will be intriguing. Okay. It does, but so the joystick does work, but you've got to force it so hard, left and right. Right is easier than left, it just doesn't want to go, so I'm going to have to pop it open and clean it. But yep, that definitely works. So another successful restoration. Okay, a little bit of fluff there. It looks much nicer now that it's been out retro brighting. It's not perfect. There are still grey keys, yellow key, grey keys, and the rest are a bit yellowed, so nothing I can do about that unless I want to go down the full retro brighting route, which I don't want to do. However, thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Retro Crazy.